As owner of Mint Mobile, I always want to find ways to save you money. So let's meet the barely paid spoke.
The games are anything but random. If you deserve them. This is your champion.
If you ever wanted to know how the average player can reach Masters rank, I'm covering it all in this video here. I recently embarked on a journey to take a guy who I'm coaching through Diamond rank and into Masters as we duo queue with one random. I'll talk about
Got a good feeling about this area.
biggest difference in achieving this climb.
I'm a bit too slow.
These tips will apply to the storm points.
Too slow.
Just because I'm doing it on Kings Canyon, that the tips won't work for other maps too. So let's get into it. Tip number 1, play cautious but not afraid. You need to look for specific fights, start to finish. The margin for error in these lobbies is so small. Everybody can shoot their gun, use their head in tactical ways. So you don't afford to play careless and act like you'll just stop the entire lobby. Now, I know most of you don't think that you will do something like this, but way too often we would have a random teammate who felt obligated to search and destroy every single team that they found. And that's just not going to work in the highest elo of Apex. I don't care what you see your favorite pros do when they play ranked, we are not them, and we are definitely not them when we're solo queuing it with randoms. So we have to play more calculated. Some games, you'll have to be okay with fighting off drop, as long as it's what you deem to be a smart 50-50. If you're just full sending a drop into a POI with 3 other teams, hoping you can fight last and come out alive, this isn't a sound strategy. You need to be more thoughtful in these lobbies. Looking for isolated fights will be key. It's definitely not always going to be possible. But if you have even an inkling of another team nearby, it's always going to be better to post up somewhere and stall or just leave the area entirely. I'll get into third parties a little bit later on in the video, but I think ultimately looking for fights that you and your teammates feel the most comfortable with is going to be optimal here. You never want to allow a team to bully you, so if you feel like you're just running from them constantly and that team is chasing you hard, then look for an opportunity to turn and burn on them. Good players don't run away, they reposition to find sure footing. Don't feel compelled to take a fight just for the need for KP if you don't think it will be a smart fight. Like too many times I see players throw their games just for a risky opportunity at getting some KP. And it's too bad, honestly. So what you need to do is just be patient. That is seriously some of the best advice, because things will open up and opportunities will present themselves. Tip number 2, we have to talk about rotation. If you don't get zoned, you're at an instant disadvantage most games. The changes to the zone this season have really shaken up how rotations work. Most games, we would try to land labs, and 80% of the time, we would have to rotate halfway across the map toward the northwest corner of it. If your team doesn't have a valve, then making large rotations across the map is a treacherous thing. Especially because if there's a lot of teams remaining, which is going to be highly likely given the fact that most people are rotating within the first 80 seconds of the match, then you are bound to run into a bunch of teams. I tried my best to get rotating early. I always liked this way rather than going in late. Because in the general situation, you can't control what happens if you go in late. Teams will try to hold you out if you're a few seconds late, or some random team will gladly try to fight you in the zone. So look out for these types of things. Beyond rotating early, I always tried to plan the rotation as soon as I knew where the circle was pulling next. It's good to have a plan B and C if you're trying to do this, because if you say, okay, we're going to go here, but if a team's going to hold us from this point, we can wrap around or use an ability to get past them. You know, whatever it is, just think ahead, because this is going to go a long way in improving your game sense. Low-key rotations is what I strive for. If I'm not looking for fights, I'm looking for the path of least resistance. I don't want to go through the center of the map in Death Valley or somewhere where I feel like it's bound that a ton of other teams are going to merge to. This may sound obvious, but you have to be calculated with your rotation, depending on where you landed and where the circle's pulling to. Valkyrie can seriously help with large rotations, so I think that she's still a very solid pick this season. A lot more. because having the ability to take her ultimate and fly into a potentially safe spot in circle. When life takes a challenge, when you need specialized health care, certified specialty nurses make a difference. Dedicated to lifelong learning, their specialized skills include the latest developments in patient care. Throughout your life, no matter what you're facing, from primary to critical and advanced care, certified specialty nurses and advanced practice nurses make a difference. Learn more at certifiednurses.org. Will be critical in most games. The games where you get those, don't try to overcomplicate it. You don't want to have to feel like, oh, well, one has to fight this team because it's team. You really should think about your positioning here. Because later on in the game, positioning ends up playing such a huge role in who comes out alive. And obviously scanning survey beacons whenever possible to learn about the next ring location is insanely valuable information. Tip number 3. Third party whenever possible. But be super aware if it's in the middle of the game. The reality is every team in these lobbies is preying on the third party. It's not so secret, it's just how it goes. So your team will need to take advantage of them at certain points too. But these mid-game pile-ups will occur. If you see anywhere from 9 to 13 squads left and there's a fight anywhere on the map that isn't very secluded, expect that fight to be third, fourth, and fifth party. You have to avoid these mid-game pile-ups as best as possible. Kings Canyon is bad enough as it is with fighting mid-game. And it's super risky most of the time because other teams are hearing those gunshots and thinking the same thing as you are. Let's get in on that. Storm Point will be better in this regard because the map is much bigger, but this point remains true on every single map. However, when you see an opportunity that's too good to pass up, you have to look to capitalize on it. A third party that requires little work on your end, but a few KP will go a long way. Another good idea would be a third party off drop, where let's say your team lands at Labs and you take over Capacitor. You hear the shots in Capacitor, you're very close to that, you think you can third party that pretty quickly, go for it. Once again, this example will work on any map. If you land at a POI, but you see two other teams at the neighboring POI, look to move quickly and capitalize off of them fighting. But if you miss that opportunity, don't stress out. If you don't get early KP, it's not the end of the world. I'm telling you, having patience will be key. There were so many games with randoms, but I just didn't trust them, so we would literally try to get to top 5 with no KP. We'd either win or get second place with a few KP. And this will always be better than taking a minus 60 off drop. Tip number 4, you need a Seer this season. Without this, you're seriously giving your team a disadvantage. I hate to say it, because Seer is so broken. It's basically mandatory this season. Some people have even argued with me saying Seer isn't OP, and I just have to say, if you're thinking that, you are not experienced in Apex Legends. And I'll break it down for you. Players have put in thousands, and I mean thousands of hours perfecting their craft in this game, developing game sense, fine-tuning their aim and movement. And then boom, out of nowhere there's a legend who has a passive that can see all enemies through walls at all time. I mean, think about Wraith's passive for a second. I think I'm being aimed at, and often it doesn't work at all, or it's like 3 seconds too late. But it doesn't end there. His tactical can cancel revives, heals, abilities, give wall hacks, and show current health and shield mark to not only Seer, but his teammates. I mean, in what world is that balance? Someone who's not even in the fight can have that big of an impact on the outcome? I mean, just think for a second. Of all of the things you would have to do to achieve even half of those things that I listed as tactical without pressing one button. Last but not least, the crown jewel is his 2-minute cooldown ultimate that reveals all enemy locations actively Seer this. And this lasts for 30 seconds. The problem is Seer lacks readability and outplay to the 10th most degree. And if you disagree with that, then you definitely haven't played at Diamond Rank or above and had to deal with him from some of the highest level of players. Beyond having a Seer though, having one of these mobility legends is helpful for navigating rotations, closing the gap on an enemy, or escaping as you try to get higher placement when your squad gets quickly put down. You don't need 2 mobility legends, but you certainly can run them. A third pick that is a great option this season is Caustic, Gibby, or Newcastle. A defensive or offensive legend, depending how you're looking at it, is really helpful for the team. They're more of a support role, which is tough to say if you're solo queuing that you should play one, but they will be a necessary pick for your team during most games. basically every team you're going to play against in these lobbies will have a seer in Season 14. So if you don't have one, you're kind of at a disadvantage. Tip number 5, if you have a string of bad games, take a break, even if it's only for 20 minutes. Try to reset your mental. This game mode is a whirlwind of emotions. You win a game, you feel great and on top of the world. Then you lose a couple off drop, and you'll feel like a complete failure. Sometimes it'll take an hour just to gain a couple hundred RP. You can lose it all in like 10 minutes. Playing with randoms is taxing. Sure, occasionally you'll get a great teammate who is super helpful and is just a well-rounded player. But most games it felt like we were fighting on two fronts. The 57 other players in the lobby and our random teammate who would proceed to full send a team on their own and die shortly after. Whether you're solo or duo queuing it, you need to try to communicate with your mates. Try to establish some comms at the beginning of the game, just to call out helpful info. This will lend credibility to your randoms and let them know you're serious about trying to gain RP. Trust me, I don't like communicating with randoms any more than the next person, but I feel as if it's a necessary component when trying to reach one of the highest ranks in this game. I mean, most of the players in the lobby you're going up against will be communicating too. So if you guys aren't, well, you're putting yourself and your team at a disadvantage. And obviously, if these players are being toxic to you, there's no need to communicate with them. But not every player is going to be like that, so you have to give every person the benefit of the doubt to begin the game. If you follow these 5 tips and put in a good amount of time, I believe the average player can get to Master's rank in Season 14. Is it worth it? Well, that's up for you to decide. But if you're interested in 7 hard skills that will pay off forever in Apex Legends, I suggest you check out this video next. Thanks for watching. Peace.
Make sure your bullet gets in. I'll make sure there's
This is your champion.
The RM66 unites 4 generations around one recurring theme: do as you like. On the stage, the RM66 reveals its entire rock universe, attired in carbon TPT entertainment. It is the result of the
Master, I promise to find us a good place to kill everyone. May your bullets hit their marks, and not me.
The owl markers screwed to the upper branches take the form of a guitar. Stretching like warheads, they climb into the abyss of the case, revealing touches of gold through its open work flange. This echoes the gold insert with a Clou de Paris motif present on the case band. The RM66 is a symbol against
Shotgun bolt here,
individualism.
level 2.
It's about being part of a clan, an emblem that says, we belong.
We're already
Let's
inside
rock
the
our
next ring.
worlds. The brand knows how important it is to remain
First
faithful
blood.
to
That's
oneself.
one way to find out you're the prey.
Hand gestures are one of the most expressive forms of body language and can convey something that doesn't require words. The so-called Devil's Horn has become a cultural and social phenomenon, symbolizing kinship and inclusion and the pitch of rebellion. It is embodied here by a skeletal hand firmly grasping a manual winding wooden caliber in green 5 titanium.
There's a new kill
Polished
leader.
and
Old one's
microglassed,
dead. Black
and is
off.
dominated by a flying chalkboard at 12 o'clock, on which is engraved the seal of the skull, a nod to the RM52, which was the first watch to
Extended
scale
heavy
up
magnet.
rebellion
Level
and the
1.
advent
Optic
of
here.
conformity in autonomy.
Laser sight here. Level 3.
my absolute favorite Apex Legends tips that most people don't even talk about, but trust me, they'll improve your gameplay very quickly. So let's get into it. Number 1, holster your weapon more. Now, this is such a basic thing to do in Apex, but I bet this is something that most of you could get better at. Holstering your weapon can help you move faster throughout the map with things like running, sliding, climbing, etc. But you obviously want to be careful getting too close to enemies when their guns out when you don't. If players are first beginning Apex, holstering feels kind of sketchy. Players aren't used to it, and they also feel like they'll be at a disadvantage if they come across an enemy, and that enemy gets to fire first. Once people start to figure out the times to holster and how long it actually takes to pull their weapon back out, it becomes more natural. It only takes a fraction of a second to get your weapon out, so as long as you don't get jumped by an opponent that's right in your face, you'll have plenty of time to pull your gun out and fire back at them. So when you're running throughout the map, it's a good idea to holster. When you're not planning on firing your gun, and maybe you're even taking some fire, but you need to get from point A to point B to get to some better cover, holster while you do so. This way, the time that it takes you to get from point A to point B is faster, and therefore, hopefully you're taking less damage by doing so. The speed boost you get from holstering is extremely handy for things like slide jumps as well. And the best part about this is you can have your fists up, do a slide jump, and then mid-jump, pull your weapon back out. This will still give you that speed boost that you get if you were holstered the entire time. So learn the timing of this, get more comfortable doing it throughout your matches and in your fights. You'll truly reap the rewards from doing so. Number 2, having a hunter's mentality. Now, it's become apparent to me from doing so many coaching sessions and just playing thousands of matches in Apex that a lot of players can just get in the habit of flowing in and out of a match. But one thing that I noticed a lot of really good players do is they are always on the hunt, actively scouting for teams and looking to take fights. I'm talking mostly pubs here, but it could carry over a little to ranked. Players can become reckless with their hunting by being too aggressive in certain moments and losing sight that this is a team game at its core. What I mean by this is you can put yourself in some untenable situations if you're just way too aggressive. Now, of course, a few prerequisites to having this mentality is map knowledge, a decent game sense, confidence, and I mean, you're going to need to know most of the basics, and then when I'm in a match, my teammate and I are looting wherever we land, and we're not really looking to loot too much again. We're looking for fights. By winning those fights, this is how we will get play it smart, possibly reposition. It helps the enemy gives up their edge while we gain one. But if you can develop this mentality, it will set you apart drastically from your randoms or from some lower elo players. This is how you are going to get confident and increase your game knowledge in Apex. And there will be some players who are not here yet. That's okay. You can try to act as if, or you can just slowly keep putting in the time. But I can tell you one thing. All the time, there will always I'm not saying you have to drop super frag and find a 2020 and a 6x to go. But you want to find some balance here. You know, land in a spot, get accustomed to fighting off drop, maybe not with 6 other teams, but maybe with 1 or 2, and try to see how you can come out alive in those situations. Sometimes having a limited scope of loot can make you a better player, but don't ever let the aggression take over your intelligence, because this will severely screw up having this hunter's mentality. Tip number 3, always look for and try to seize your advantages. Teams that seize the moment when they have the upper hand will always dominate the fight. They're going to close the gap to you when they beam you for 100.
Hey, Newcastle.
They are going to reposition if they take a significant amount of damage. They are going to use their Legends abilities at the perfect moment and in the best way possible. See, skill gap.
That's not for you, bro.
Expert who will do your taxes for you. You're free to do non-taxes.
Here.
Show your eyes things that are not taxes. Show your brain things that are taxes.
No, bro, that's not for you.
Meet with an expert who will do them for you. Intuit TurboTax.
The kitchen is the hub of a busy household, so you need a floor that can stand up to the daily foot traffic, messes, and meals. Let's check out the top 3 kitchen flooring types to help you decide which one is right for your home. First up, classic hardwood flooring. Hardwood is a timeless beauty, adding value that will last for generations to come. Little things like spills or wet paw prints wipe right out. Plus, you can refinish your hardwood floors so you have the freedom to change the look over time. Next, Wood Look Tile. Tile flooring will help you conquer breakfast, lunch, and dinner with easy cleanup. Not to mention it's scratch and stain resistant, making it a winner for families with pets and children. Finally, laminate, vinyl, and resilient flooring. When you gather around the kitchen table, family should be the only thing on your mind. Don't sweat dents, scratches, stains, and spills. And remember, water protection, vinyl and resilient flooring are completely waterproof. Durability, floor-friendly design, and resistance. It's easy to install. With cutting-edge technology, laminate and vinyl are like the extra hands you're always looking for. There you have it. The recipe for a perfect kitchen design starts with
Bro, why did y'all push up?
great for you and your family. Need help narrowing down the selection? Our design experts are here to help from start to finish. Get the perfect design services online or in store today.
Is a real thing in Apex Legends, and it's partially what makes this game so addicting. Seizing the moment can come down to gameplay. One of the broadest topics in Apex because of all of the steadfast rules or tips here. Let me elaborate for you. Investing every situation that you're getting into quickly. Things such as map terrain, what legends you're going up against, weapons, armor, I mean, everything matters here. And you won't know all of this info all of the time, but as you learn to piece it together in live time, well, then in which you need to either be proactive and make a move or react to another opponent's move. This is chess, not checkers. One of the biggest issues in Apex can be hindsight. And hindsight is always 20/20, but in Apex you can't keep looking back for the answers when you don't have them in the moment. That's why you have to be okay with operating off the information you receive in that moment. Lots of good players understand this concept, but lots of good players don't. Let me ask you guys something. How many times have you and your teammates made a decision right there in that moment to take a fight? The fight doesn't work out. Then as soon as you're back to the lobby, one of the players on your team goes, we shouldn't have done that. We should have done X, Y, or Z instead. Well, the truth is, in that moment, you guys all were on the same page to fight, and you need to be okay with the outcome. Focus more on where you went wrong. Sometimes it could be the execution that was really the problem, not so much the decision as a whole. But teams always jump to make the opposite decision. They're back in the lobby because the situation didn't work out in their favor. That's usually what tears the team apart. Don't be like this. Try to learn from your mistakes. Don't second guess every single decision that doesn't work out. Usually your instincts will be right, so follow that. And number 4, play to your strengths. Try to minimize your weaknesses. Now this one kind of had two schools of thought. If I have a glaring weakness, shouldn't I try to improve it so that it's not such a liability? Well, yes, but not so much that it's at the expense of all of your games. But at the same time, you don't want to straight up neglect your weaknesses either. Here's an example. For me, I'm not super good with certain weapons at long range. Part of this is because Apex has made this difficult with a lot of the weapons that just aren't meant to be good at long range. But the other part is controlling recoil and actually hitting a good amount of shots at 60 to 80 meters with certain weapons is very difficult. I also play on controllers, so some guns just aren't as fluid to use for me. So with this weakness, I need to be aware that if I have a single fire rifle or an assault rifle like the Havoc or the Flatline, that I may not be super efficient with at a long range, but I don't want to facilitate fights where I'm completely ineffective. So I may try to shoot a bit at some distance, but ultimately work my way up closer to the enemy, so that I can gradually get more effective with the weapons that I do have. Another example could be I'm not super good with a legend like Valkyrie. The jetpack is awkward for me, and I never really played her a ton. So if I have to use her in a ranked mode, I try to practice with her pubs first. Try to get used to the jetpack, using it in fights, so that I can get more comfortable with it, and hopefully better at using it to avoid damage while using it. Some games I may use them in ways that I know will be challenging, but I won't do things like this if I don't absolutely have to. See, at the end of the day, I want to win, but I can learn to improve in certain aspects along the way. Find your strengths, really embellish them. I'll always look for close range fights. There's a few of the legends that I've learned to master really well, so I'll search for little pockets within the match, try to find where I think that legend is really, really good, and I'll try to get my opponents to fight me in those moments. And then with my weaknesses, I try to minimize them as much as I can, but I don't completely avoid them either. Tip number 5. One tip that is so important to get good at is to pay attention to your entire team's health and shield bar. This is something that will give you bits of info actively during engagements. And this may sound really simple in nature, but trust me, it's something that so many players either can't focus on or just flat out overlook. This is also extremely crucial while you solo queue, because most of the time as knowing how low or how healthy not just you are, but your teammates too, help you decide who needs to do what in each moment. Even if they're randoms and there's very little communication during that match, maybe that one of your teammates as well may need to heal. Maybe they're in a bad spot too, but you can cover fire for them while they heal. Something as small as this can have such a huge impact on the fight, because you may be able to single-handedly prevent anyone on your team from getting knocked in the first place, and that will severely help your chances to win that fight. Ultimately, you can only control yourself while you play Apex, but looking out for your teammates, whether they're randoms or your friends, is really, really important, and it's something that a lot of great players do, but it's not something that's like really obvious and in your face that they're doing it. It's a subtle tip, and it plays a big role in fights. Number 6. Be practical with your game plans and with your expectations in each match. Most importantly, and this isn't something I usually mention, but try to have fun. Having fun in this game for me is a byproduct of competing, whether this game is kills, winning the match, or hitting a high rank. I mean, let's be real, no one wins at anything. But you can still have fun if you learn to improve anything. You can set up some manageable goals for each game, for each session, and see if you can achieve them. Well, this game is best when you're actively working towards something, which I'll admit at times can feel difficult with Apex's content releases, but it's something that I recommend you trying out in Season 15. So now that you know the best for Season 15, I covered it all in this video here. Check it out next. Thanks for watching. Peace.
Recharging shield.
Recharging shields. Off the squads and cocked, fellas. On ya. Give me a sec.
Light ammo, Evo shield here, level 3. Hold up, healing. Death box over here. You can scan this area. You can scan this area. Targeting this room, people. It's sent to your map. Ready for burn. Unless you have your own set of rockets, I'd hurry up. Got a visual on the building right here.
Switching shields. Replicator on its way.
Bogey's dead. Fox 3, visual clear. Good tone. Light ammo here. We should maneuver to that area. Use this jump tower. .45 to go. Fortunately, radar shows the ring's close. Use this jump. We can scan this area.
Ring will be closing at 30.
Bro, come on. What is you doing?
Seconds and the ring's just ahead.
Got materials.
Let's scope this quadrant out here.
Listen up. The ring's moving. We're on the wrong side of it.
Bro, come, like, why do y'all, I'm pinging for a reason. Fuck it. Get covered. Come on, bro.
Charging on my shield. I'm in the next 4 5. I'm ready to scorch the bird. Burn is good. Oxygen mask will be provided. If you're traveling with a small child, this is a blood sport. What's wrong with you? Recharging shield.
Trust me, losing ain't that bad. You learn something new every time. At least that's what I've been told.